we've got a couple of, pieces that Susan and Jane and I had talked about. And so, let's just dive right in. And Susan, why don't you, kick us off? Why is it so tough to discuss the business or the wealth? We put it out there and said, sometimes talking about those things is tougher than the birds and bees conversation. Why is that? And what happens if you don't talk about it?
Talking about the wealth is scary. There's no getting around that. It is often said to me that families would rather have the dreaded sex talk with their kids than the even more dreaded money talk with their kids. It is a scary thing. And my favorite quote on the topic of communication comes from George Bernard Shaw, who said the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. And why I love that quote so much is because it really conveys just how much and how hard it is to talk about these types of things, and how we think we have communicated so much more with our kids than we have. The other side of that, the corollary to that, is that some parents say to me, my kids have no idea that we're wealthy. And what I say back to them is, you're just fooling them yourselves. The money is the elephant in the room. There's this wonderful thing out there called the internet. Maybe you've heard of it. Right? Of course, our listeners are using it right now to listen to this broadcast. Kids Google their parents. They Zillow their house to see what it's worth. They see how you live. They see how you travel, back when we traveled before COVID. Kids at school talk. And of course, at Thanksgiving dinner, when all the parents are downstairs chatting over coffee and dessert, when the kids are all upstairs talking with their cousins. Well, even if you haven't told your kids about the wealth, but your brother-in-law has, guess what? Now your kids know. Or guess what? They're about to find out from the kids at school. So it is foolhardy to pretend that the wealth doesn't exist. A much more realistic approach is to, in age-appropriate ways, and we can get into this as the conversation develops, in age-appropriate ways, talk about the wealth to the children. If there is an active family business, invite them in on school vacations or summer vacations to work in the family business, so that they can begin to appreciate an understanding of the responsibility that accompanies the privilege of their wealth. The one thing that I hear all the time is the knock on millennials these days is they live in a world where Facebook went from zero to $1 bazillion in 5 minutes, and they think that's how it's done. But that's not true. The young people today are craving more information and more education and a better grounding in who they are and what their identity is. So it really behooves the parents, whether over the course of time in age-appropriate ways or in the course of a family meeting in a facilitated way, to have structured, intentional conversations with your kids. Because just like the sex talk, if you don't have that conversation with them, they're going to find out anyway.
Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Jane, anything that you'd like to add to what Susan was saying?
I certainly agree with all of it. And because my focus is conflict, helping people prevent it and then deal with it if it crops up. And I'm using the shorthand of negative conflict, which is the part we talk about so frequently, not the more positive idea of conflict as a source of collaboration and creativity. The best part, to my mind, is the best part of what Susan was touching on is starting and continuing. Best of all, when it's not one big conversation, but starting and continuing, including on issues that are very difficult. And the kids will ask, and they need to understand. Similarly, if you are having a situation where there are siblings who are spread out geographically, or not everyone gets along well, or if there's a situation where there are cousins, keeping people in the loop, even a little bit, in whatever mode works for your family, can help a great deal. when something difficult comes along, because then you have some basis of communication instead of, oh, by the way, we haven't actually connected in 5 years, but I need to tell you right now that something really awful is happening. That would be very difficult to handle.
Agreed. It's funny when we talk about, the numbers, and, I've been working with family businesses for 20 years, and so often, it's not just inside of the family, but it's the employees, and Susan, to your point, you can go out and, get a Dun and Bradstreet on a company, what a company is worth and the kind of sales volume that's out there. And people are like, oh, I'm not sharing those numbers. Well, we're not talking about, what you're taking in salary or every single thing that you're doing. But if you're running an equity style business where you're trying to grow equity, you better share those numbers. If you're growing a lifestyle business and you're just doing this for you and your immediate family, that's different. And, I would imagine that you probably don't want to share those things. But I think the vast majority of people, especially in the family business, are looking to make that leap from that lifestyle business to the, grow the equity, make sure that we're doing this the right way. And it's good communication with the family and throughout the organization probably makes an awful lot of sense. So.